The Spark City Council meeting of 2/27/2017 with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini?
Here.
Councilmembers Abbott? Here. Lawson?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Bybee?
Here.
Gear?
Here.
City Attorney Adams?
Here.
Manager Driscoll?
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
You can all stand for the opening ceremony invocation speaker. We have Pastor Omar Palmer from the Spark Seventh-day Adventist Church. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you.
One second. Wait, let me get up here. Yeah, there we go.
If we please assume an attitude of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for this wonderful opportunity that we have to convene a meeting to discuss affairs of your city. You've privileged us with the opportunity, Lord, to be a part of this great work, and we thank you for that. Now we pray that you will be integrally involved in every aspect of the operations of this your city. Be with our mayor, city council members, city attorney, staff, all those who from a day-to-day basis have something to do with the lives of our citizens. We thank you for protecting us, for preserving us. We've seen many things happen, but we're still grateful that your hand was in the midst of all things. And so we turn the meeting over to you today and ask that your will be done. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Ms. Bybee, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, I will. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the agenda. I'd like to move 9.6 and 9.7 up to right after 6.1, which is the minutes. Yes, people have to meet airplanes, and we want to try to get this finished and get them out of here. So could I have a motion with that amendment, please?
I move to amend 9697 to the top, right after our minutes.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dare, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor? Please vote. Passes unanimously. 6.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Spark City Council meeting of February 13, 2017. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? If not, looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Mr. Dare. So a motion by Ms. Bybee, second by Mr. Dare to approve the minutes of February 13th. Any further discussion? Please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move to 9.6, consideration, review, and possible acceptance of advice and recommendations from the Sparks Tourism Facility and Revitalization Steering Committee regarding the expenditure of lodging tax proceeds for renovation of Victorian Square Cinema property. Mr. Ornelas.
This is less than helpful. That lady in the rare diseases was concerned about.
Sparks receives, as a result of action taken by the 2003 legislature, transient lodging tax proceeds. The rate is basically 2.5% on all Sparks lodging properties. The money may only be used to construct projects and capital improvements in Victorian Square that would directly benefit Victorian Square, and the projects must be such that they would promote tourism in Washoe County. The City Council may expend these lodging tax proceeds after obtaining advice and recommendations of the Sparks Tourism Facility and Revitalization Steering Committee, which was created by the legislation that imposed the tax. The Steering Committee is required to develop a master plan that identifies proposed projects or capital improvements that are eligible uses of the money. The committee originally adopted a master plan in 2004 and has amended it twice in 2008 and 2016. This City Council accepted the 2016 plan last July. In addition to providing for certain expenditures that were specific to the resolution that came to the council at that time, including the Victorian Square Infrastructure Improvement Project and Public Art for Victorian Square, the 2016 master plan also allows for financial incentives to substantially upgrade existing privately owned entertainment venues and facilities that increase the regional appeal of such facilities. On this basis, in late 2016, Sayufi Enterprises which owns the Victorian Square Movie Theater property, and they were the original developers of that property, submitted a request to the city for lodging tax proceeds to fill a financial gap in the cost of renovating that property as a state-of-the-art 14-screen movie theater. So after Cinemark terminated their lease and vacated the building, they removed all the furnishings, fixtures, and equipment from the building. Now intends to enter into a lease with Galaxy Theaters, which also operates the Galaxy Theaters in the Legends Shopping Center, to renovate, reopen, and operate the property. Per Saifi's proposal to the city, the remodeled theater would feature luxury recliners and state-of-the-art digital sound and projection systems, and the lobby, entrance, and concession areas would be renovated with finishes similar to those found at Galaxy's Legends facility. Saifi estimates that the costs of these upgrades are approximately $7.6 million. Requested $1.5 million of financial assistance from the lodging tax proceeds to complete this project. So on January 31st, 2017, the city staff took the request to the steering committee, which considered and approved by a vote of 4-1 resolution number 3, which is attached to your agenda item. And resolution number 3 formally advises and recommends to the city council that it expend up to $1.5 million of lodging tax proceeds beginning this fiscal year to incentivize substantial upgrades to the Victorian Square Theater property. In reaching its decision to adopt resolution number 3, the committee reviewed and considered the proposed scope of work for the Victorian Square Cinema property. So they saw, representative images of what that theater would look like after it's renovated. The proposed terms for the provision of financial assistance to the cinema project. So basically, they received the draft term sheet that was used as the basis for the financial assistance agreement. And then they also received a hypothetical cash flow analysis that was prepared by city staff, demonstrating that the city can provide the $1.5 million for the cinema remodel project, while also covering the costs of the other projects that have been approved in the master plan, as well as leaving some substantial capacity for other projects that the committee and the city council. That was the information basically on which they arrived at their recommendation to you, the city council. So city council acceptance of the committee's advice and recommendations as provided for in resolution number 3 would enable the city to expend through a separate action, and that would be through 7, up to $1.5 million of lodging tax proceeds to incentivize substantial upgrades to the cinema property. That concludes.
So this is a presentation on 9.6, Armando.
Correct.
So this is just to approve the recommendation that the tourism committee made?
To accept it,
To accept.
yes.
Who from the council is on that committee?
I am.
You are?
Charlene and
And who else? Yeah, okay, all right, just wanted to know, I couldn't remember. Okay, questions on 9.6? No questions, looking for a motion. What?
Comment.
Go ahead, you can comment.
I voted against this in the committee meeting. And, because I have a visceral reaction to public money being spent with private. But after further consideration, I've changed my mind, and the more I looked at this, the more it made sense. It's a piece of the puzzle that needs to happen in Victorian Square. And they're investing, 4.5, 5 to 1 as to what we're investing. That is kind of where I see that public relationship going with private, is the bulk of the money comes from the private. We just help to get them over the top there. And a $7.5 million investment in downtown Sparks is good for all of us. So I'm changing my vote from the committee time.
Let me make one comment too about the money that's being given here. This is not, it is public funds, it is taxpayers' monies, but it's not taxpayers from Reno and Sparks, is it? 99.5% is taxpayers' money from tourism. Is that not correct? So I don't want people to get the idea that we're taking money away from our general fund that would fund policemen or firemen or any kind of things for our general city. That's not what this money could be used for. So that's one thing that I'm not real, it's not my favorite thing either, is public money with private on this kind of a deal, but this makes perfect sense to me. We need, this is the keystone to getting that, the key piece to getting that downtown going. I've been here for 15 years, 16 years. We've been working on trying to get something down there. Now we have some good buildings going down there, 2, 3, 4 buildings going on down there, apartments. This will solidify this whole thing and make this thing happen like we've always wanted it to, and like I've thought about it and dreamt about for 15 years. So I think this is a good thing too. So next speaker is Ron Smith.
And I'll agree with you, Mayor. I think that this is something that we need to do down there. We're building apartments. We're bringing people down there that'll use the theater. We'll have some restaurants and everything down there. So I think this is a no-brainer as far as helping them out. And I'm ready to make a motion if you'd like.
Go ahead and then we'll have discussion. There's a work session. Go ahead.
Okay, I move to accept the committee's advice and recommendations as provided for in resolution number 3 regarding the expenditure of lodging tax proceeds for renovation of the Victorian Square Cinema property.
Could we have a second for discussion, please?
Second?
Okay, a motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee. Discussion, Mr. Dare.
I also want to say, when it comes down to talking to them, the education piece that they're talking about doing is kind of exciting, because it definitely will continue to drive and give back to our community. They're talking about, one of the things that I heard is that they can do a thing where they link with a space station, and students can come in and they can actually get to talk to them or see what's going on. And it's good for tourism, it's good for our community, and it's what this money, I believe, is supposed to be used for. But it's for tourism, but it also invests in our students, which is pretty exciting as well.
Okay, any other comments? Go ahead, Charlie.
Yes, I think this is exactly what that money was intended for. We've sat with money in that fund from room taxes that has been sitting there for years as we've gone through the recession. There hasn't been any point in putting money into revitalization downtown because there was nothing happening and the economy didn't warrant it. So I think now that we finally see the buildings going in, the businesses, apartments, restaurants and retail to follow, this is the core, this is the center of Victorian Square, and it can't be dark. But I think so that the public really can appreciate the fact that that is room tax dollars that was specifically meant to be used for this exact thing, for entertainment, for revitalization. Another part of the room tax dollars that we're going to spend is going to sidewalks and around the trees, the planters, the sidewalks, the streetscape that we're going to upgrade, which is in dire need of that after all of our special events. So we already have money allocated for that and for public art, which is one more piece of the puzzle. So I think it's critically important that the theater needs to reopen. I'm excited with the partnership with Galaxy. Their numbers that they presented to us on the percentage of the market of people who go to Legends right now to see movies, because it is state-of-the-art, and this will be even more so because it's going to be the newest screens and the newest equipment, new lobby, and like Christopher said, the opportunity, and I'm excited for us to share together with Galaxy for different programming during Hot August nights, bringing in programming and movies that are car-related, bringing things in during 39 North Pole and Christmas programming. So being able to work with Galaxy to really kind of create an experience that's a movie theater, but even more, because it could be used, rented out by businesses, by conventions, or by private groups, or to coordinate with things we're doing in Victorian Square. So I see a partnership of making that theater something different than you can find, the newest, the nicest, but then something a little bit unique that would draw the people to downtown, and that's what we want. This money is to be spent to draw tourism, and I'm excited to see this project go through, and I definitely will be supporting it.
I don't have any cards for public comment on this particular item, but I do have one on comments on 9.7, which is related. So if somebody wants to say something now, is fine, or we can wait till 9.7 when that one comes up. Okay. So any more comments up here? Then we have a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Ms. Bybee. Let's go ahead and vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, next is 9.7, consideration, review, and possible approval of a financial incentive agreement, AC 5343, between the City of Sparks and Syufy Enterprises to provide up to $1.5 million in lodging tax proceeds for renovation and reopening of the Victorian Square Cinema property. Go ahead, Armando.
Mayor Martina, members of the City Council, Armando Ornelas, Assistant Community Services Director. This item, as you've noted, is the actual agreement that would, between the City of Sparks and Syufy Enterprises that would provide for the funding for the project. I just wanted to go through, I think you have all the background now in terms of, the committee approvals and et cetera. But I just wanted to touch on some of the key terms of the agreement so that those are understood. We've talked about how the project's defined. Essentially, all 14 auditoriums would be renovated with luxury recliners, et cetera. The lobby and concession areas would be renovated. There is a project deadline. The agreement lapses if the project isn't completed and open to the public prior to December 31st of 2017. Galaxy is actually targeting a spring reopening, but that's the deadline in the agreement. Syufy and Galaxy are obligated to collectively invest at least $6.1 million. They'll have to provide the city documentation with regard to their and Galaxy's respective investments in the project. The $1.5 million would be paid as follows. $1 million upon the opening of all 14 auditoriums of the project to the general public, and provided the cinema remains open to the public, then $100,000 a year for 5 years after that. So that's how we would get to the 1.5. It wouldn't all come at once, and none of it would come before the project is fully open. Prior to the initial payment, Syufy is required to provide the city a signed and recorded memorandum of lease. It's essentially a summation of some of the key lease terms, particularly those that are important to the city, between Syufy and Galaxy for that property. The memorandum of lease will provide the city the ability to verify that the lease grants Galaxy Theaters an initial lease term of at least 10 years. And then it also needs to prohibit Galaxy during that same period from removing the fixtures, furnishings, equipment that were essentially, done as part of the initial project, unless it's for purposes of upgrading, or replacing that equipment. So the point of that is, we're trying to avert, if we can, being in the same situation where, you potentially have a gutted building within that 10-year period anyway. And then, Galaxy and Syufy have asked the city to consider requests for improvements to the lighting in the parking garage. The parking garage will, of course, be the primary parking, with all the surface parking now being gone. And then in the area in front of the theater, basically the city is obligated to consider the request. The city retains full discretion, and really what we're looking to do is to incorporate any such improvements into our CIP as we can. So that's essentially an outline of the terms of the agreement. Just again touching on comments that the City Council has already made, but basically the reopening of the cinema as a fully renovated state-of-the-art facility would feed that energy that we're trying to create downtown. We have over 500 residential units that are either been recently completed or are under construction. So really the biggest need now is for complementary uses that draw people downtown, in particular uses that draw people downtown that aren't special events, right? So things that are going on 365 days a year. I think having a working open theater, especially one that's newly renovated, is important if we're ever going to draw other uses like retail and restaurants. And I know that in terms of the 2 grass pads that sit in front of the theater, as you know, Silver Wing Development, Jay Witt's company, has an option to acquire those properties that the City Council and the Redevelopment Agency extended that option through the end of June. But basically, Mr. Witt was waiting to find out if in fact the theater would reopen, because it doesn't make sense to build retail and restaurant space right at the entrance to the theater if the theater isn't working. So that would be probably the most immediate effect in terms of attracting those other uses. Finally, I think that I want to get in the habit of as your staff addressing master plan or comprehensive plan goals and policies at this these projects would address, and it addresses a number of them, including managing Growth Goal 5, which calls for the city to prioritize development and enhancement of downtown Sparks Center. Policy Managing Growth 15 calls for the city to continue to implement the Victorian Square Development Plan as it may be amended. And Economic Vitality Policy 2 states that we should enhance Sparks' appeal to visitors to the region by strengthening arts and entertainment offerings. So that concludes my presentation. As you know, both staff and the Room Tax Committee have recommended this expenditure.
Questions, then we'll have public. Andrew McCullough from Sciophy Enterprises. If you want to come up and speak, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Mayor Martini, council members. My name's Andrew McCullough. I'm from Sciophy Enterprises. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for agreeing to consider this request. As most of you know, we've been in discussions with city staff for the better part of the last year trying to figure out a solution to what is now a dark theater building. About a year ago, close to a year ago, we got word from Cinemark, our tenant, our longtime tenant, that they would not be renewing their lease on the property and that they would close the theater effective September 30th. In our discussions with Cinemark and with other prospective operators, it was clear to us that the cost to upgrade the theater from its original 1998 furnishings was prohibitive. In other words, there was no tenant that was willing to make the necessary investment without an enormous subsidy. After a number of conversations, we were able to get together with Galaxy Theaters, who, as you know, operates at the Legends very successfully. We were able to come up with a way to make this deal work with only the need for, and I don't want to trivialize it, assistance of $1.5 million. We came to the city, we talked to them about using lodging tax proceeds to assist in making this a reality, and we were thrilled to get the blessing from the Lodging Tax Committee on January 31 and the support of staff in this endeavor. We made a commitment. The commitment is to ensure, and that's in the agreement before you right now, to ensure that the money is used productively. It goes into a theater, it remains in the theater, and the theater remains operating for at least 10 years. What I can tell you is Galaxy Theaters, per our lease with them, assuming that this is approved, is committed to all of those conditions. But in the very unlikely event that they're unable to meet those commitments, the agreement is with Sciophy Enterprises. We have both the know-how and the capital, if necessary, to fulfill each one of those commitments. So you have two parties, two strong and committed parties here who are going to be partners in this endeavor. Our biggest commitment, though, and this is in our discussions with staff, is to provide an excellent operation. And that's what really excites me. We have in Galaxy Theaters a terrific partner, a tenant, but also someone who's already proven that they can operate very successfully. So Frank Rimkus is here from Galaxy Theaters. I know he wants to share a few words about those operations, but I'm here with for any questions you might have. But if you don't have any, then I'll yield the mic to Mr. Rimkus.
Okay, from Galaxy Theaters, we have Frank Rimkus. Come on up, Mr. Rimkus. Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Appreciate that. And there may be some questions later.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be back here again and back in Sparks. And it sounds from the comments that hopefully you're as excited about what we're doing as we are about what we're about to do, hopefully with your support. You've heard from your people here what we plan to do. I can certainly regale you with a bunch of details, probably spend too much of your time, so let me open it more to questions. But before I do, just say if any of you or all of you have been to the Galaxy Theater Legends, if you like that, I think you're going to like the new downtown theater. What we see is a real opportunity. We've kind of been hamstrung, if you will, here in Sparks with the popularity of that theater. We have a much bigger agenda dealing with community educational facilities, charities, organizations in cities to be able to provide more than just movies. And we've really been a little hampered by the fact that Legends is so doggone popular that we can't implement another big part of what it is we do. So we view this, again, with your support, we view this as an opportunity to finally fulfill what we do in other cities and what we call create the magic. So, as I mentioned, if you've seen the Legends, then you'll know what to expect. It's going to be all new. You may recognize the outside. You will not recognize the inside. We're going to be gutting all the auditoriums, gutting the lobby, all new concession area, all new. We're going to re-stadiumize. We can make this work. We're going to re-stadiumize all the auditoriums. You're going to love the seats. You're going to love the popcorn. You're going to love the big screens. We're replacing 20-year-old technology with modern-day technology, so it's digital. We'll have large format. We'll have the all-new Dolby sound systems. And we'll have the same services available in terms of adult beverages as well as your usual fare. We also have, which is becoming more and more popular, reserved seating, so that you can get your favorite seat on Wednesday instead of Saturday when you show up. We're looking for an opening sometime this year. For us, the sooner the better. This year is shaping up to be a good year for film. We'd love to take advantage of it. And I can honestly say that by doing this, we will expand the market. Some markets are a zero-sum game. This is not. When we opened in Legends, a couple of studios said that we increased viewership by about 15%. That's amazing. So we see an opportunity to take up the slack. There's more demand than supply. With that, I'll just open it up to any questions you might have.
Mr. Witt's building everything down there for people to come and stay so they can go to the movies. All right, so good. Good team here. But Jay.
Mr. Mayor, first off, I want to say it's great to see you back in that chair. I'm sure other people here agree with me. Members of City Council, it's great to see you all again. Yes, Jay Witt, Silver Wing Development. We are currently in the process of building, depending upon how the current bids come in, somewhere between $80 and $90 million worth of development down in Victorian Square. We have plans beyond that. A key element of just the next phase of the buildings up against the theater, which we were as Armando stated, waiting to see what the use was going to be in the theater. We are now moving forward with those, and with the city's support, we'll hopefully get those underway in about 5 weeks and be out of the way of the theater by the time they open. We may still be working around the buildings inside, but nothing that will create any sort of impedance in the entry into the theater. We've also, Frank and I have chatted, and ironically, I didn't think he thought he'd be a neighbor to somebody worked on Wall Street at the same time he did, but here in Sparks Arena, but that is the case. And I'm happy to work with him on, he brought up some things on lighting and use of our buildings to help light the theater. We're happy to coordinate that with him. So that is in the works as well. And I think in conjunction with the Marnell companies and what they're doing at the Nugget, we really now have a team along with city staff and the elected officials here to see a very, very unique district being formed here that I think you're all going to be extraordinarily proud of and will be sustainable for decades to come. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, because I'm here to answer them. That's as easy as it gets. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Any more public comment? Anyone want to speak? Okay, we'll bring it back to council for action, and I'd just like to make a comment before we go ahead and hopefully make a motion here. You know, I'm very, 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 very happy about this transaction. When Cinemark left, I was very upset, but now I'm so glad that they did. Because now we have a product that's better than anything in this area or better than anything even close to this area. I mean, these Galaxy theaters, if you've not been to them, you gotta go. It will completely spoil you for going to the movies forever and ever and ever. I guarantee you that. So Cinemark left, I was upset. Galaxy walks right in and sweeps us off our feet. I'm so proud to have not only one, but two Galaxy theaters in the city of Sparks. It's, for a small city like us, it's a tremendous development and a great infusion of capital into our area. I'm so proud of what we're going to be able to do here, and this is what I've been waiting for 15 years, along with Sayufi and Galaxy and Mr. Witt's Silver Wing and all those guys over there. We're going to have what will be a super place to go downtown. So that's just my comments. Okay, let's bring back to council for questions, comments, whatever. Charlene?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead. We'll make a motion.
I move to approve the financial incentive agreement AC 5343 between the City of Sparks and Sayufi Enterprises to provide up to $1.5 million in lodging tax proceeds for renovation and reopening of the Victorian Square Cinema property.
Mr. Smith?
I'll second that motion with some comments, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
If you don't think the Galaxy Theater is successful, try to find a parking space when they have one of these major films going on. So this will also do is open up more screens for the same films you have. So if you can't get the seat you want at the Legends, you can go to Victorian Square and get the seat you want and the time slot that you want to watch the movie. So this is a win-win for everybody here. It's a win-win for Mr. Witt and for Galaxy Theaters. So we appreciate it. We know we finally got something going downtown, and we don't want it to stop. I've been on the council for 11 years, and we've been trying to get something downtown. The recession took its toll on us, but good stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
I just wanted to make one more comment. On the room tax lodging that we have, what was exciting for me is when staff brought forward a hypothetical looking forward. And this $1.5 million, should we approve it today, is just the start. Because as we move out the next few years, there will be money in that fund that will be able to help with other renovations and other possible help to retail, whether that's restaurants, other entertainment, art galleries. There's other possibilities. It's not just one time, this is all that we have to give. So the money that's in that fund was exciting to see, as well as for art. So the money that will be there in the future as we look at more expansion and the ability to do that, to cover the square. I don't know if we're going to do an ice rink, but lots of big plans, but other future funds, we're not draining the budget. So it does leave money there and out in the future. And I think that's important for us to have that security in the future to further expand on what we're going to do. So thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Everyone ready to vote? All right, let's vote. Phew, passes unanimously. Thank you. Got one comment first, and then Mr. Dare has a comment. Thank you, Galaxy, Sayufi, Mr. Witt. Thank you so much for what you're doing down there. And all I can say is at the end here, adios, Cinemark, welcome, Galaxy. Mr. Dare, one more comment, please.
Actually, I just have a request. I have students from the school that have to get back to school, and I know after this, there might be an order. Is there a possibility to pull them up to the front? Because I want them to go learn and one day rule this world, so.
All right, thanks, folks. We're
Thank you.
done. We've got it done. So what did you want for them, Chris?
There's a proclamation.
Proclamation,
Yes.
okay. All right, if you want to have them come up, you want me to read it, or you want to read it, Chris?
I'd like you to read it.
I'll do it if I can read.
Oh, if you want me to, I can.
I was just kidding. Come on up, Excel School. This is a proclamation for the Excel School, Christian School Day. Okay, whereas Excel Christian School was founded in Sparks, Nevada in 2003 with the philosophy of developing a loving, nurturing environment that through relationships, they minister to the whole person spirituality, intellectuality, physicality, emotionality, and sociality. And whereas Excel Christian School is an institution that offers a high level of learning and spiritual needs, contemplating the educational opportunities in our city. And whereas in the past year, Excel Christian School has grown in the area of student enrollment, academic excellence, sports achievements, and serving the community, ensuring Sparks residents a safe alternative to educate and prepare their children for the future. And whereas the City of Sparks congratulates Excel Christian School for their goals of incorporating college classes into their curriculum provided by Multnomah University. Multnomah?
There you go.
Multnomah University further equip the generation to grow in leadership and responsibility. Now therefore I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim Saturday, March 11, 2017 as Excel Christian School Day. Christopher, could you present this to us?
Definitely.
Mayor and City Council, thank you. Thank you for this honor. We are privileged and grateful to be planted in Sparks, Nevada. We love being able to serve the community and reach out to the kids. I'm really proud of our students. Just last week, they brought in over 300 pairs of new pajamas for foster kids in the area. So we're very excited about what we can do here in Sparks. So thank you for your support and your
I'm so pleased that you came because you turned an eyesore over there, that property, which is really a good piece of property, and I hated to see it sit there with nothing in it and turn it into something that really looks nice, and I can tell that you're proud of that school and you're proud of the property that you have the school on. So from me, thank you very, very much for getting rid of an eyesore and bringing a beautiful project to Sparks. Thanks.
And you also have an event coming up. Why don't you announce that?
Our gala, our annual silent auction gala at the Peppermill is on March 11th. We encourage everyone to go to our website and get tickets and come on out and support us and have a good evening. We just have fun. So we hope you can join us.
Fun is good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to 7.1, International Women's Day. Is there someone here to accept this? Is there a woman here that wants to accept this? How are you? What's your name, please?
My name is Daisy Rodriguez.
Okay, Daisy, I'm going to read the proclamation, okay? After I take a sip of water because it's a long one. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways and have served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force and were particularly important in the establishment of every charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and the other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. And whereas an International Women's Day is celebrated in many countries around the world on March 8th to recognize women for their achievements without regard to division, whether national, ethnic, linguistic, cultural, economic, or political. Now therefore I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim March 8, 2017 as International Women's Day. Thank you.
I want to say quickly thank you again for recognizing this day. We're continuing to make steps forward for the equality of all women. And with that being said, we will be holding an event March 7th at Little Flower Church from 5 to 7. And it's an event open to the community, and we want to represent all cultures. And there's going to be cultural performances, food, and recognition of very amazing women in our community who have contributed towards this equality for women. Thank you.
Thanks, baby. Appreciate it. Thanks, Charlene. I was gonna have Chet do it, but I thought you'd be more appropriate. Okay, now we have 7.3 proclamation for Rare Disease Day. Is someone here to get this? I see rare. Would you bring this down, Renee? Sure. Hi, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and we'll bring it down to you. Whereas there are nearly 7,000 diseases and conditions considered rare, each affecting fewer than 200,000 Americans in the United States, according to the National Institutes of Health, NIH. And whereas while each of these diseases may affect small numbers of people, rare diseases as a group affect almost 30 million Americans, and many are serious and debilitating conditions that have a significant impact on the lives of these affected. And whereas while more than 450 drugs and biologics have been approved for the treatment of rare disease, according to the Food and Drug Administration, millions of Americans still have rare diseases for which there is no approved treatment. And whereas individuals of families affected by rare diseases often experience problems such as diagnosis delay, difficulty finding a medical expert, and lack of access to treatments or ancillary services. And whereas while the public is familiar with some rare diseases, many patients and families affected by less widely known rare diseases bear a large share of the burden in funding research and raising public awareness to support such research for treatments. And whereas residents of Sparks are among those affected by rare diseases because nearly 1 in 10 Americans have rare diseases. Therefore, the National Organization of Rare Disorders, NORD, is organizing a nationwide observance of Rare Disease Day on February 28, 2017. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim February 28, 2017 as Rare Disease Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just really want to go to a movie now. But I appreciate your support in this, and I'll be at the Legislative Building at the Capitol tomorrow, and Assemblyman Sprinkle is going to introduce me on the Assembly floor, so it's exciting. I know.
Could you give us your names, please?
Yeah. Tell us who this beautiful young lady is.
Tammy Hefty and...
My name is Abby Hefty.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Look at her.
She's a star.
Oh, she is.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Evie. Well, let's go on to consent items 8.1 through 8.3. Everybody want to pull a consent item? If not, looking for motion. Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve consent items 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's go on to general business. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the ratification of the Truckee Meadows Water Authority's recommendation for a reappointment of council member Ron Smith to the Western Regional Water Commission. The applicants in alphabetical order are Abbott, Bybee, Dare. And that's the name of it. And Lawson and whoever's up there on the council. Lost my way here, kids.
Lawson and Smith.
Here we go. I'm getting there.
It's going to be a tight race between Smith.
Dare, Ed Lawson, and Ron Smith for possible action. Okay, possible action, we're looking for comments or a motion. Mr. Dare.
I move to ratify the Truckee Meadows Water Authority's reappointment of Councilman Member Ron Smith to the Western Regional Water Commission.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Dare, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve Ron Smith on the Western Regional Water Commission. Another good job. Please vote. Go figure, passes unanimously, huh? All right,
Nobody else wanted
congratulations. I feel lucky. Okay, let's go to 9.2, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the mayor's recommendation of 2 appointments to the Western Nevada Development District Committee from the following pool, listed in alphabetical order: Jeff Bowling, Sean Carey, Jeff Martinez, and Art Sperber. So I think we want to appoint Jeff Bowling and Art Sperber. Questions or looking for a motion? Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve the mayor's recommendations of Jeff Bowling and Art Sperber.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 9.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. 9.3, consideration and possible approval of a contract for the 2017 CDBG G Street Concrete and Street Improvement. George Graham.
Good afternoon, City Council, and, staff. Today I'd like to present, for your consideration, one of the community development block grant entails pedestrian improvements. This is a continuation of what we're doing in the area of, G Street, Rock. Replacement of sidewalks deteriorated, some concrete work, roadway, improvements of, just access, which includes some handicap access that we had been deficient in some areas, and, total improvement of that portion of the, area. We've received 4 proposals, and I've coordinated with budget and see that it's in line or within our budget to address this under the CDBG, pedestrian improvements work. And so I, well, that, just like to get approval of that, and if there's any question at this time, I will address. That concludes.
Questions for George? Mr. Abbott. Okay, go ahead.
I move to approve contract AC 5341 for the 2017 CDBG G Street Concrete and Street Improvements to Viga Asphalt Paving Incorporation in the amount of $423,281.40.
Do I have a second? Mr. Lawson.
A second, and with a comment.
Go ahead.
I've not heard of Vega. Are they new to our area?
I'm not myself personally.
I'm just curious.
They've been around for a little bit.
Have they?
Yeah. My friend's girlfriend works there, so I know it.
Of course.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Abbott, second by Mr. Lawson to approve 9.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 9.4, consideration and possible approval of a contract AC 5342 for the 2017 Street Rehabilitation Unit 2 bid number 1617-008 PWP-WA 2017-054 to Sierra Nevada Construction in the amount of $1,404,007. Go ahead.
Record. My name is Amber Sosa. I'm the transportation manager, and I'm presenting for your consideration and approval this contract for our 2017 street rehabilitation unit project. This project is part of our city's transportation system, and it was prioritized and identified through our pavement management system, and it has been outlined in our 5-year CIP. The scope of the project includes reconstruction of the roadway as well as removal and replacement of deteriorating curb and gutter, sidewalk, and driveway approaches. February 1st, the city received 4 qualifying bids, with Sierra Nevada being the low bidder. I'm looking for your approval today.
Questions for Ms. Sosa? Mr. Smith?
Did, they look like they're the second bidder. There's,
That's an estimate.
oh, that's the estimate. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Dare?
I move to approve the contract, if we're ready for a motion.
Sure, go ahead.
For the 2017 street rehabilitation, Unit 2 to Sierra Nevada Construction, the amount of $1,404,007.00.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 9.4. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Amber. Mr. Dare, we're always ready for motion. Don't hesitate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, 9.5, consideration and possible approval of resolution number 3311, adopting the 2000 model update as the standard for evaluation of sewer line capacity for the city of Sparks. Mr. Hummel.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martini, members of council. For the record, Andy Hummel, utility manager for the city of Sparks. Before you today to present a resolution to formally adopt our 2016 sewer model update. It's basically this document. Hopefully, everybody was able to read the full thing. Good, good. Helps with the, if you can't sleep. So with that resolution, we're basically asking for 3 things to formally adopt this update. It sets this model as our standard for evaluating development proposals moving forward in terms of wastewater conveyance capacity. And then also provides that we'll do regular updates. The anticipation is following the Washoe County Consensus Forecast update every 2 years. Other than that, that is my presentation, if there's any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hummel? Mr. Dare?
I do. I just have probably a comment. You guys have, first of all, what a fantastic job. Because looking at that, it's so intricate. At the same time, it's actually somewhat understandable from even someone that I don't have an engineering background at all. But you guys did a good job on that. But I do have one concern, and I think it's something that keeps coming up, and I think it's not a surprise that I will say this, is if this all passes and we'll say yes to it, I just want to make sure that it doesn't somehow lock us down for growth that looks like it's outside of here. Because I understand the protocol that you are looking for and the policy, but if we're not careful, I don't want this to be a policy decision that it seems that anything outside the box does not seem to automatically fit. And I know you guys are diligently working with different things, and I know we've had a lot of conversations. I'm getting the stare down from over there. I know the stare, but you know we've had these conversations. So but it's something I want to say for the record very clearly that I don't want in the future for it to say, well, you guys said yes, that's why we went forward like this. And so that I don't know. I want to say that to the council. I want to say that out loud, that I do think it's done well, and I think it's a great tool for us, but I don't know that it can be the final decision maker.
Yeah, I don't think it's, this document as exists right here is the final say. While we, move forward, it's dynamic. We continue to update it as those new proposals come through to make sure we're capturing the direction we want to go in.
Councilman Dare, if I may. For the record, John Martini, your Community Services Director. A couple of things. With regard to the great job Andy did getting us a master sewer model that shows everything that we have to gather up and ultimately get to Tumwater for treatment. It represented a major expenditure. In the past, engineering departments, either in Public Works or in Community Services, as we are today, have done these, got them done, We didn't share that information probably as well as we should have with the Planning Commission, with the development community, particularly with the council. This time around, I did want a resolution acknowledging the work, acknowledging that this is the tool, this council will approve this as a tool for evaluation, and I think I want to make that distinction clear, Councilman Dare. As we move forward, if there are opportunities to expand outside our given study area, the very nice thing about this tool is it's flexible and adaptable. If this council were to direct staff to start taking a look at it, this resolution today says this is the basis of the model, we'll do that for. From that, we can evaluate potential expansion areas for the effects it'll have on our existing sewer network, and of course, what will happen down at the treatment plant. It'll provide you the tools to make really good decisions, or I don't know, maybe not really good, but certainly informed. With this recognition, this is the tool that we will use. A couple other points. It doesn't preclude a proposal coming in from, say, a developer who wanted to bring in land into the city, but it does say it will be evaluated against. I want to make that decision. It doesn't preclude them from doing their own studies should they choose to. We will measure it with this tool. I hope that helps to bring
Yes.
clarity. I don't believe it locks us in. I think it actually gives us the flexibility to take a good look at something.
Chris? Charlene, Bybee.
Does this give us, I would hope it does, gives us an opportunity by adopting this today as our guideline to give us those facts that we need, also provides, when a developer, say, comes in and wants to annex or bring a property in that doesn't have the capacity, whether it's the pipe itself, whether it's, some component of the system as it stands, and it has to be upgraded, it gives us the opportunity to tell the developer or that this is what it would cost, because in order for this project to be feasible, we need larger pipes, or we need interceptors that are changed. I mean, is that a valuable part of this, as I see it, that we have that opportunity and we can be upfront with further development on what the real cost is, so that the city doesn't wind up having to, so that we don't have the capacity or the city foots the bill, which we shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Moving forward, that's one of the key ways we would use this document.
Councilwoman Bybee, if I can add on to that, I don't know that to respond rapidly. So in the old days, it might take Andrew and his crew and consultants a couple of months to get back with an answer. Andrew's pretty confident we can have results within a week or two. Like you said, identify how much, what needs to be upgraded, and what the proportional share of those upgrade costs are.
I think you guys did a great job in this study, and usually I find myself saying that whenever you guys put together, because it's a lot of work to do this. I did have the same concerns as Councilman Dare, that this doesn't limit our growth or the sewer capacity that, and my first thought was, are there any projects out there that are down the road that we've allocated sewer space for that they may not build for 10 years? So, I mean, it's just like roads. The RTC was going to widen Bering, never, but it was on their CIP. So we removed it from that and freed up that space on the CIP. So I hope we look at that in the future if we got some projects that are, call them shovel ready, whatever you want to. But I appreciate the work you've done on this.
Lawson.
My concern is that we use this as a way to say no, and I'm looking at one project in particular where there's capacity to the property, but the problem occurs downstream and a mile away from that property. Now we say no because we can't get it through a mile down the stream. The developer really has no responsibility on that or ability to affect changes outside of his property. So I'm cautious that when you say measured against, it's easy to say, well, we got a problem downstream, so that project is not going to go, rather than finding the solution as to how do we create the capacity to alleviate that downstream problem. Because obviously that's not the developer's fault, and we know we have a problem on our inside the McCarran Loop, And that actually is where we have to grow the most, and we got the worst pipes there and the smallest pipes in that section. And all through Ward 2, you know, we have lots of issues there, and Ward 1 also for Mr. Abbott. But the smart growth is infill. That way we have less policemen, less firemen, less city services. We're already doing it. Less roads, less distance to travel for every service that we provide. So that's how we're going to meet our growth in the future, is the infill. So I'm just cautious that we don't say no because we have a downstream problem and take a developer out of the city of Sparks, and then we end up with patches of undeveloped land that we have quite a bit of along the Audi corridor in particular. So I'm just measured against. I'm a little leery of John, so let's use it as a tool, I would say, would be a better in explaining where we are and the timing of future projects. Obviously, we don't have a lot of money to do a lot of future projects, but the timing of that project, that we can get to that downstream problem in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years, then let the developer make a decision based on the facts and what our educated guess is. Thank you.
Any other comments or looking for a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 3311, adopting the 2016 sewer model update.
A second, Mr. Dare?
I second that.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve 9.3.
5.
9.5. Any further discussion? It looks like, please vote.
Sorry, we jumped the gun.
Passes unanimous. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here.
Thank you.
You don't need me, do you?
That was the question we had.
Let's go to 9.8. I don't see his vote yet, so you better give a presentation, okay? Consideration of possible ratification of resolution number 3309, declaring a state of emergency in the city of Sparks on February 9th, 2017, due to flood event which began on February 7th. Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, Steve Driscoll, your city manager. For the record, flood 2017.2. Having enjoyed several events in January, declaring a flood, declaring an emergency to deal with flood, and then actually closing that one out, we found ourselves on the 9th of February looking at 2 days of events that were then putting us into the possibility of 3 to 4 atmospheric rivers in a row, putting us up into the flood stage in the Vista industrial area. And so on the 9th, under your emergency management authorities, I declared an emergency for the purposes of dealing with floods, which allows us to then interact with other agencies for resources that are possibly needed. Action was ratified by the mayor, as is your procedure. However, that does require us to come back and discuss it again at this level, to have you in a regular session actually contemplate and to acknowledge that what I did was in fact within the authorities that the council has provided me. So this is time and place for you to possibly ratify my original declaration on the 9th. Just as some addition to that, this declaration is still open. We've been waiting kind of for the weather to calm. We had a couple more storms since this point. There's one more coming in, and that if it stays snow like it's supposed to be, then we'll be looking to close this declaration out. This does eventually help us if there are monies either from the state or federal government that could help us offset some of our expenses. In this particular emergency, we've not really seen any expenses above normal for our normal operations. Most of what we spent during this period since the 9th has been on snow removal, and so that doesn't fall within the actual emergency. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Driscoll? Mr. Dare?
I just want to say again, we say it over and over, but I think our staff have worked so hard during this season and has done a fantastic job. Our roads have been great. They're keeping up with everything, and people don't realize that they show up at 3 in the morning and 5 in the morning. I was in a meeting the other day, and I'm just thankful you didn't invite me to a 3 o'clock in the morning meeting. But then I was very thankful for our staff. So those out there watching this and our citizens just need to know that there's a whole city, a group of people working for them, making sure they're safe. And so thank you. Good job.
So, Mr. Chair, for the record, Steve Driscoll, if you'd like to be invited to the next 3 o'clock meeting, I'm sure to put you on the distribution list if you're feeling left out.
Can I volunteer somewhere? No, just kidding.
Mr. Smith?
You know how I feel about this, Steve, but I want to concur with the majority of the citizens that are calling me, talk about what a great job Sparks has done in the last 2 events, and we all know the job that we did. I thought it was fantastic. We wrote an op-ed about it, but heartfelt thanks to the staff and everybody, because they step up to the plate, they adjust their schedules and everything else to do what we need to do to keep the city safe. So I'm ready to make a motion, if you'd like.
I would love it.
Okay. I move to ratify Resolution Number 3309, declaring a state of emergency at the city of Sparks due to the flood event.
Mr. Abbott?
I'll second it.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve the state of emergency. For discussion, seeing none, please vote. Unanimously, and thanks all the staff, really wonderful showing up early, and thanks to my Mayor Pro Tem for sitting in for me. I got to sit home in my easy chair on my big rear end, watching the show go on and listening on the phone rather than having to be at the meetings. But I know it's great to be at those meetings and watch our staff work. They do such a wonderful job. So thanks for that, Ron. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm brief in my comments. 2 things. We've taken emergency management very seriously at the city for quite a while, when others maybe haven't, and we don't worry about what others do, we worry about what we do and our responsibility. And this council has done kind of 2 things that have helped that along. There was resolutions and ordinances passed in the past that provided using the incident command system as the way we would handle ourselves in business, and that's what your staff does. That provides some authorities to myself as your manager or someone sitting in my chair if I'm not here, to work with the staff. And since the staff has taken it both professionally on a regular day-to-day basis and an emergency management basis, that is what's happened. Is by you providing us the authorities and the policies. I know that it's not comfortable sometimes when we get busy working and solving the problems that are in disaster timeframe, that we do the best we can to keep you posted and to keep you involved in the process. And I know that it's not always comfortable, because it kind of feels like you're the policymakers, and sometimes during emergencies, you're not being asked policy, your staff is driving on. So I just want to thank you on behalf of your staff for allowing us to manage the way we manage, and that you continue to provide leadership for us, that we're comfortable driving forward and taking care of the citizens. And then it's always a pleasure to update you whenever possible, and you ask great questions, and you're very complimentary of your staff, and that is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to 9.9, consideration possible acceptance of a business impact statement regarding restricted gaming business license. Mr. Thornley.
Mayor Martini, oh, that's right.
Bobby has a statement to make, please.
Before we get started on this item, on item 9.9, I just wanted to say that I will be abstaining from this item because my husband works for a non-restricted gaming licensee that is a member of the Nevada Resort Association. I'm unsure whether this specifically rises to the level of a disqualifying conflict under the ethics and government law. I believe it is prudent to be cautious with respect to this type of issue. Therefore, as required by state law, I will not vote or advocate for or against the passage of this message, nor will I be asking questions or involved in the conversation. Thank you.
Thornley.
Mayor Martini, members of the council. Doug Thornley from the City Attorney's Office for the record. If you'll recall, all the way back to January, at the urging of the mayor, through the Mayor Pro Tem, you instructed staff to begin the process of looking at amending Title V, the Business License Code, as it relates to the regulation of restricted gaming in Sparks. As part of that, I was before you at the end of January and you approved a moratorium on restricted gaming licenses until July 1st or until such time as the code is amended, whichever occurs first. In the time since then, staff has published a draft ordinance, and as a precursor to the council's consideration of that draft, because the amendment would necessarily affect the expansion or creation of a business here in Sparks under state law, we're required to submit to you a business impact statement, and that is what this item today is. By way of background, the process for that is that the city attorney's office mailed a letter and a copy of the draft amendment to every gaming licensee in the city of Sparks and posted the proposed amendment as linked to a large header on the city's webpage. That remained up the period January 27th through February 17th of this year. The letter went out on January 27th and indicated on it that comments would be received until February 17th. In that time, the city attorney's office fielded one phone call and received one email from non-restricted gaming licensees clarifying that the proposed amendment would apply only to those restricted locations in Sparks, and we received one substantive set of comments, and that was from Dottie's.
Did within February 17th? By February 17th?
Yes, we did. I'm going to paraphrase. You'll see it in the business impact statement that's attached to this agenda item. But Dottie's raised, in my view, four primary concerns. The first was that the amendment applied only to bars and bar restaurants here in Sparks and not to the other suitable locations for restricted gaming. The second was that the proposed amendment precludes bars and bar restaurants who do not currently act as suppliers, as that term is defined in the state statutes, or bars and bar restaurants who are not currently operating as a brew pub, as that term is defined in state law, from essentially applying to sell packaged liquor at retail for off-premises consumption. The third concern is that they thought the proposed amendment was unduly burdensome to bars and bar restaurants because it required them to provide the city with a diagram of the operation during the course of their annual renewal for their business license. And then the fourth, and I think this is probably their primary concern, is that the city ought to leave the regulation of gaming to the Gaming Control Board and the state regulators. I think there are two major points that staff would raise in response to those concerns. The first is that gaming regulation number 3, as promulgated by the Gaming Control Board and the Gaming Commission, lists suitable locations for restricted gaming thusly: as a bar, tavern, or saloon, or similar location that sells alcohol for on-premises consumption by the drink. Second is convenience stores. Third is grocery stores. Fourth is drug stores. And fifth is liquor stores. Convenience stores are limited to 7 slots. Liquor stores are limited to 4. The proposed amendment only applies to operations in excess of 7 machines, so between 8 and 15. So it would not apply to convenience stores or liquor stores, as those terms are presently defined in the regulation. Grocery stores and drug stores, which are the other listed suitable locations, require the slots, the gaming operation component of those businesses to be walled off from the other portions of the business, so long as that operation was established after the year 2000. Anything prior to that is grandfathered in. One of the factors considered by Gaming Control with respect to restricted licensing is floor area when they're evaluating whether or not the gaming operation is incidental to the primary business. And so what State Gaming Regulation 4 requires is that when you walk through the door and apply for a restricted license at the state level, you are obligated to provide the the Gaming Control Board with a detailed diagram of the business operation that spells out where the slot machines are, where the seating for the slot machines are, and what the circulation area around the slot machines and around the primary business is. Regulation 3 requires an updated diagram in the event that the business wishes to change the location of the slot machines or the manner in which the incidental gaming operation interacts with the primary business. And so with those two regulations, it's staff's position that the proposed amendment to Title V is not unduly burdensome, in that the documents that we are requiring already exist, in that it is a reasonable regulation for the city to enact, in that it is a topic that is considered by Gaming Control. Staff does not have a response as to the broader concern that gaming regulation should be left to the state, other than to say that our business licensing staff and our code enforcement staff is in a pretty good position to determine whether the day-to-day operation of a restricted gaming license is in fact incidental to the primary business, because they're in there on a day-to-day basis. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the council as it relates to the business impact statement. I would take this opportunity to remind you that the acceptance of the business impact statement is a prerequisite to any sort of consideration of the proposed amendment to Title V. And so what that means is, if the council chooses not to accept the business impact statement today, we cannot go forward and consider item 9.10, which is the first reading of the proposed amendment.
Any questions for Mr. Thornton? Questions, Mr. Smith?
Doug, so the item we voted on last meeting was a moratorium on new businesses, right?
Yes, sir.
So if somebody with an existing business comes in and wants to do something, or, let me step back. The state regulates the 10% of the building that can be used for gaming, is that right?
No, that is not right. So the state has not prescribed a specific floor area as it relates to evaluating whether or not the gaming operation is incidental.
10% of their business then?
No, they haven't necessarily defined that either. The 10% number that you're thinking of is that in our zoning code in Title 20, accessory uses, which is what this would have to be, it can't be the primary business use. Accessory uses are limited to 10% of the floor area of the entire business operation. And so while I haven't gone out with a ruler to all of these locations, that could pose a problem under our ordinances as they exist today. The moratorium, to your question on that, it relates to existing businesses, of course, in terms of their expansion into other locations. So business and gaming licenses, while they are attached to people, are also attached to specific locations. And so in that sense, an existing business would not be able to expand, but a new business would not be able to come in and establish itself in Sparks until the moratorium expires naturally on July 1st, or naturally because the code is amended prior to that.
Mr. Lawson?
Doug, I'm not comfortable doing this today. When we put the moratorium on, I thought we were going to have some time to do some more homework. I've been contacted by the Dottie's people. I haven't been able to meet with the management. I've met with their lawyers. I would like to spend some more time and understand this, as putting someone out of business or restricting a business is contrary to my core beliefs. So before I do that, I want to make sure that I have done my homework, and I don't feel that I've had enough time to do that at this time. So I don't know what the council's pleasure is, but I could not vote for this today. I would be more comfortable postponing it for a few months while we do research during this moratorium period.
I can understand that. I would like to take the opportunity to clarify that the proposed amendment doesn't put anybody out of business as those businesses exist today. We went out of our way to...
Prevents the expansion of your business, which is the same thing in the long run.
It prevents the expansion of the business model. That is true.
If you're a small business owner, if you're not growing, you're dying. And that's the way it works.
And so for my own,
Growing at whose expense? I mean, it's okay to grow, but you got to do it legally, not just grow because you.
I
wanna
understand, so I just want to do my homework to be sure that I'm not doing something contrary to what my beliefs are.
so for my own edification, you're the one doing homework, not me, right? I mean, because if I'm the one doing homework, I need to know what the assignment is.
Not assigning you any homework.
All right.
I'm assigning myself the homework.
So how much time would you like for this homework? Because, this can go on and on and on forever. And as far as, I'm trying to think of why this came up. I think it came up because I specifically didn't think some of the rules were being followed that was assigned to the Dottie's people, then they were not following the rules, and some things that they were doing maybe were not legal. Is that why I brought you?
That was my understanding of how we got to where we
Homework,
are.
I don't have a problem with it. If you're not comfortable with it today, that's fine. But again, homework can last for a long, long time. I remember some assignments I put out when I was in school for senior.
8-year program, I was on the 5-year program, no big deal.
So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that unless, you tell me what's the downside to that, Doug?
Well, I don't know that there's necessarily a downside. I would say that procedurally, there are a couple of ways that the council could proceed. The first is that the council could deal with the business impact statement today and choose to continue the first reading of the ordinance until a date specific when Councilman Lawson feels as though enough time has passed that he's had an opportunity to get his head around the issue. As I said before, the business impact statement is a prerequisite to any sort of consideration of the ordinance, of the amendment, and so we could do that. The second is you could continue the business impact statement for the same reason, for the same period, and we could agendize it the same way we have today. The third is, Councilman Lawson, if you have specific issues with respect to the information that has been provided to you in the business impact statement, you could urge the council to reject the business impact statement and give me direction to explore particular issues and draft another one.
Question that's just in my mind is if Dottie's is performing outside the law, how come the Gaming Commission hasn't addressed it?
Well, it's my understanding that
Ultimately, they're the hammer.
they are a hammer. I think there are a couple of things to consider. The first is that the Gaming Commission, it is my understanding, the Gaming Commission and the Gaming Control Board have been unable to agree as to how to best tackle this issue with respect to whether or not the restricted gaming portion of a business.
That's why I want to formulate my own idea on this, because everybody has an opinion, and I'd like to have an informed opinion.
Second point, though, is that, again, without me going out with a ruler, or someone going out with a ruler, it wouldn't be me, I'm not very good at math, and measuring, we could well have a problem under our zoning code as it exists today. And so without amending the business license code, effectively grandfathering the businesses in as they exist, we could run into a fairly serious zoning issue that would in fact put people out of business.
Yeah, see, and the problem here is that nobody wanted to take this issue up because maybe it's a little controversial. It hasn't bothered anybody for a long, long time. They didn't see how much money was being made at these spots by doing what they're doing. And I don't want to say doing it illegally, but not following all the rules, I guess I want to say.
Yeah,
And that's why I brought it to Doug, was I was looking for a fair way to measure how these people were standing up to what they're supposed to do as far as legislation.
I think that's right. I think I won't presume to speak for gaming control. That was my understanding, and to the extent, Councilman Lawson, you feel you need some time to consider Regulation 3 and how the 7-factor test with respect to whether a location is suitable for a restricted gaming license is applied under state law. I can respect that. You do need to continue it to a date certain if that's what you want to do.
I certainly don't want to put anybody out of business either. Doesn't mean I want to tell somebody it's okay to have your business and do it illegally or not up to snuff or whatever by not following the rules. That doesn't send a good message to the people that are following the rules in doing things right and maybe spending a little more money than somebody else to do things right. So I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. I just want people to understand they have rules and regulations they have to abide by, and we just want them to abide by them. That's all. That's pretty simple.
You'll find that sentiment expressed in the business impact statement, that the proposed amendment is essentially a leveling of the playing field as it relates to restricted gaming operations here in Sparks.
So are you okay with the date certain, and I'll,
Give me 2 months?
I'll give you 2 months and 3 days if you want. It's
2
fine.
months and 2 days and 22 hours.
So we're looking at 62 days, is that what you want?
2 months from
No,
now, that's
seriously,
fine.
2 months is fine, 60 days, is that good?
Yes.
First meeting in May, is that?
That would be, that's what 2 months works out to you, I think.
So that'll give a chance to, for you to speak, and I'm sure there are, I can see some people that will be calling you. So.
And I
How do
hope
wanna
you,
go
I
about-
hope
oh,
you
I'm sorry.
understand that I have to be
Yeah.
sure in my
I
mind.
know, no, I
This is a
understand.
big decision for me, you know.
I
being
agree.
a small business guy from the word go here, that I just gotta protect that, and I have to sort it out in my own head to be there. So this came up as a surprise to me that it was on the agenda so quickly.
So as a point of clarification, is what you're, you haven't made a motion yet, but is what you're proposing that both the business impact statement and the first reading of the proposed amendment, in whatever form that may ultimately take, if there are changes from today, be agendized at the first meeting in May, or are we going to deal with the business impact statement today and put off the first reading until the first meeting?
I prefer we deal with it all at the same time. Yeah.
I think
So-
Ron Smith has a question or some comments. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, to Councilman Lawson's comments about if you're not growing, you're dying, we've already passed the moratorium. So they can't expand during this period of time anyway. They can't expand from now to July 1st as it stands. Is that true?
Well, unless you amend the code in the interim period.
But we would have to amend the code, otherwise they can't do anything about it right now.
Correct.
So I would be in favor of doing the business impact, and then even doing the first reading. If we don't have to bring the first reading back in 2 weeks, we bring it back in closer to his 2-month period. Can we do that, or is it automatic to the next meeting after we do the first reading?
Well, I thought at first that it was, that it needed to be in the subsequent meeting, but a closer reading of the charter, you may delay the second reading after the first, if there is a particularized
We could
issue
delay
that
that
you'd
for
like
the
to
2
deal with.
months, and that would satisfy Mr. Lawson's issue with looking at it further. But the business impact fee, we could actually do today, and it wouldn't have any effect until we do the first and second reading.
The business impact statement, if you did it today, if you dealt with it today, would not have any impact on the first or second, other than you have to do the business impact statement before you do the first.
It's like house cleaning. Okay.
My preference that you, if you're going to do it, that you do the business impact statement and handle the first reading today, in that the business impact statement is tied to the draft ordinance as it exists today. And so if there's a proposed amendment to that draft ordinance, I think in the interim time, that will give us it will put staff
That's
in a
what I
better
said.
position to
We
deal
can
with
do,
it.
we can do them both today, and it'll have no effect on what we're doing because we haven't had the second reading yet.
That's correct.
Okay.
You have a question for Mr. Adams, and then Mr. Driscoll?
We'll see what Mr. Adams has to say.
No, I just wanted a clarification. We were getting kind of far from the agenda item.
We've never done
A
that.
lot of collateral discussions. I just wanted to keep the council on track and to direct our attention to this particular agenda item at this particular time. In that regard, the subsequent discussion as far as whether or not you want to accept this today, vote on this particular agenda item, totally appropriate. Your rules, 6.8, essentially says that not more than one reading of an ordinance shall be on the same day, and at least 10 days shall elapse between introduction and final passage. So as Mr. Thornley pointed out, There's nothing requiring you to have a second reading within 2 weeks.
That's it.
City attorney handled my question, thank you.
Right, what's your pleasure, folks?
Well, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, make a motion, we'll see where it goes.
Hold on and see what happens. I move to accept the business impact statement related to the proposed amendment to SMC Chapter 5.24 concerning the operation of restricted gaming in the city of Sparks.
You have a second? You have a second?
I want to speak.
Go ahead.
So my question comes down to as well of, and I think what Mr. Mayor said is exactly it, if they're following what needs to be there or not. But is this particular thing, is this directed isn't just directed at Dottie's, this is directed at anybody doing that setting of gaming?
That's correct. It's not Dottie specific. It's
Just
related-
happens that Dottie's falls into that, and this is a little bit was some of the concern. But
Anybody that might want to do it in the future.
Well, I think anybody who might want to open a bar or restaurant or identify to the Gaming Control Board that they're running a bar, tavern, saloon, or like operation
I think that's
would fall
important
into this
to be said, because
category.
this has to do with that, and then I think it also has to do with trying to make sure that people who get business license do what they say they're going to do and follow it. And I think that would be what we'd want from across the board, that the gray areas we pull in and we follow the guidance. That's, so. I almost gonna lean towards Ed in the sense on this as of waiting. I'd like, if we have to make a decision, I'd like to see what the problem is and maybe have that time as well.
Okay, well then don't second this. Anybody else want a second? We'll let Mr. Adams speak and then we'll go on.
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor. The agenda item is to accept the business impact statement. A failure to vote could be construed, probably would be construed as a rejection of the business license statement. If it's the consensus of the city council to hold everything off in abeyance until we can get a better view of the overall picture, then I would suggest that the maker of the motion consider either withdrawing the motion along with the second, there hasn't been a second yet, just to avoid any ramifications down the road. In other words, a lot of time and effort has been put into this business impact statement, and I'd hate to see it denied simply on a technicality rather than through a vote of the entire city council.
Well, so far, we've got no second, so this motion dies if there's no, is there a second? Then motion dies, right? Correct? Chet? Yeah. Doug? Okay.
Does die.
Okay, next, who wants to do what next?
So I'll make a motion that we postpone this for the near city council meeting to 60 days from now for items 9.9. I guess I can't address 9.10 though.
First meeting in May is what, Steve? May 8th? So you want to continue till May 8th?
May 8th.
You have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Dare, second. Okay, then moved by Lawson, seconded by Dare, to continue this item and Mr. Thornley, any?
The only point that I'd make is if this is the council's pleasure to continue the business impact statement until May 8th, that item 9.10 on the agenda be essentially 86th.
So I can.
Can we postpone that at the same time? I mean, can we postpone it when we come to 9.10? To the same,
Withdrawn would be better, right?
I think withdrawing it
that
is
they're in
probably.
conjunction with each other again?
Put it on in conjunction with each other again, but I think in terms of dealing with it on today's agenda, what the law says is that you have to accept the business impact statement before you can consider the ordinance change, and I don't want to
But
get
you can bring it
sideways
back
with.
anytime, right?
whether or not continuing it counts.
That
as-
doesn't affect what Mr. Adams just said. There's no prejudice that will come about for the first reading of this in 60 days.
Not in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
So everybody understand the motion? We're gonna continue this till May 8th, which is the first meeting in May. Please vote. Now we go to 9:10, and now can I just withdraw that?
Yes. Well, I think you can withdraw it.
Office said agenda item 910 be withdrawn at this point in time, sir.
9:10 is withdrawn.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, in case you didn't follow this like I didn't follow it, 9:10 has been withdrawn, so we'll move on to public, don't sit down there, speed up, you're up next. 10.1, public hearing consideration possible approval of a request from the City of Sparks Redevelopment Agency to the City of Sparks for the abandonment of a portion of Avenue of the Oaks public right-of-way. Mr. Carlson? No, Erickson. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, John Erickson, City Engineer for the record. As the Mayor indicated, this is a request from the Sparks Redevelopment Agency to the City of Sparks right of way. Where this is located are on the two undeveloped parcels to the south of the movie theater. They're looking at approximately 91 square feet or 1 foot south of the existing property line. And what this is for is to assemble parcels for the Silver Wing development for Fountain House Phase 2. We processed the request following NRS 278-480. We notified all the property owners adjacent to the right-of-way abandonment through certified mail, as well as posting this meeting through the Gazette Journal. Staff finds that the public will not be materially injured.
That's just the red line you're talking about?
With that, I would answer any questions.
Is it just the red line you're talking
Yeah, just the red line here, and that's adjacent to the two parcels that the redevelopment agency owns today. Yeah.
Questions for Mr. Erickson?
Sidewalk, John? It's not sidewalk?
No. This was sidewalk in here, but it's in public right of way. Yes.
Questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this particular item? Well, if you want to speak, come on up and speak, Jay, and then you can sign a card. It's not a problem. Go ahead and give us your comments, give us your name for the record, and then you can fill out another card. In fact, I'll just put your, I'll put it on this card that you spoke on 10-1.
Jay Witt, Silver Wing Development. Just to give you a little history here, we're inheriting a land plan that was created 15 years ago, maybe? 2005, okay, 12 years ago. And we're trying to basically design buildings that work today to a land plan that was not something we rejected and we're not following through on. In this particular case, between the when it came to designing the parking, the ADA compliancy for vans and such of that nature in the garage, we needed a certain width, and we also had some utility issues. And that, in conjunction with just the overall design, forced basically, I think it's, are we talking 12 inches, John?
Yeah.
It's 12 inches that we're talking about here. You will see also, just to, not to befuddle this, but in a subsequent meeting, you will see that the northern portions of these two parcels, these, by the way, these are what we're trying to start in 5 weeks. The northern portions of these two parcels have two slight boundary line adjustments. And I can't tell you exactly the derivation as to why, but let me speak to that real quickly so it's not a question later on. For some reason, they were not done at 90-degree angles, so we had a slight couple percent deviation from a 90-degree, which obviously square building doesn't really fit on quite well. So that'll be coming up at a subsequent hearing, but today, the abandonment on the south, we were trying to accomplish, and after the abandonment adjustment is completed, the subsequent meeting, we plan to close immediately and start construction immediately thereafter. So this is really just to try to accommodate yesterday's plan to today's design. And today's design has a number of other, we deal with a lot of restrictions between, utilities and accessibility and everything else. And this is unfortunately just coming out of that process that we're having to deal with every day. Regulations. So any questions? Thank you.
Anyone else speak to this public comment? Okay, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to council for action or questions. Ms. Bybee?
I'm ready for a motion.
Damn, me too.
I move to approve the public right-of-way abandonment request as outlined by staff.
You have a second, Mr. Dare?
I'll second that.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve 10.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Double bonus there. Okay, 12.1, comments from the public. Anyone in the public want to make a comment? Okay, 12.2, comments from the city council and city manager. Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an announcement. The following committee appointments are available for the Truckee River Flood Advisory Committee. There's one member, no term, but members serve at the pleasure of the city council. Qualification, ideally, committee members would be familiar with the Truckee River watershed and bring technical expertise that helps with the evaluation and selection of projects. Persons interested in serving on this committee should complete a community service application available from the city clerk's office. You may also apply online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us. You would click on Government on the webpage, then click on Volunteering for a Sparks Board or Commission, and then click on Volunteer Application. Applications will be accepted until the close of business on Friday, March 17th at 5 p.m. That's all.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ed.
Steve, I'd like to see that we look in community development at shipping containers as an alternate construction method for the city of Sparks.
To allow or disallow? Just clarification, sir.
Wow.
Ship to.
It's, City of Reno has accepted shipping containers as an alternate means of construction. I think it's kind of a wave of the future and a great infill projects, and I'd like to see Sparks be available to do that.
Else? Did you get that, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dare.
I just want to overall, I know Dave Seuss is here, and we have a pancake breakfast on Saturday for the Nevada Veterans Memorial, and just want to invite our community out there. And it's going to be at the VFW right across the street. No. American Legion, I'm sorry, right across the street from here. And very, very much interested in letting you come. It's a donation. You can donate anywhere from $1 to $1 million. We'll take it all. It's awesome. And we'd love to have you. And so anybody here would like to go, but we want to make sure you know about it. It's this weekend at 7 a.m. 7 to 11, sorry. 7 to 11, and we'll be out there serving. So, yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further business, we're adjourned.
Of February 27th, 2017, to order with a roll call.
Chairperson Bybee,
Here.
agency members Abbott,
Lawson. Smith.
Here.
Martini.
Here.
Deere.
Here.
Agency Attorney Adams.
Here.
Chief Administrative Officer Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, public comment. Do I have any public comment? Seeing none, close public comment, move on to the agenda. Item 4.1, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Martini, second by Member, Agency Member Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. Item 5.1, minutes, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting of January 23rd, 2017. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Motion by Agency Member Martini. Do I have a second? Second by Agency Member Dare. All those in favor, please vote. Okay, passes unanimously. Item 6, business items. 6.1, report of claims and bills approved for payment and transfers for the period January 5th through February 8th, 2017. Do I have a motion to approve? Agency Member Abbott moves to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Agency Member Martini. All those in favor, please vote. I guess I should just say, please vote. Did we vote? Okay. That motion carries unanimously. Item number 7, do I have any comments from the public? Seeing none. Item number 7.2, comments from agency and chief administrative officer. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.